I was listening to this book called The 12 Rules for Life. It was written by Jordan Peterson, and some interesting popped up. It's like, it's pretty obvious when you think about it. We all deal with this, but the way he put it was pretty interesting. So I thought it'd be cool to talk about it. So he was talking about order and chaos, and the way he was talking about it, at least the part that I remember, was he was saying, order is like when your life is going well, you have food on the table, your work is steady, you don't have a lot of stress in your life, maybe your significant other loves you. If you're talking about maybe graph or stuff like that, your graffiti career is progressing, like everything's going well. So that would be considered order. But then on the flip side, you have chaos, and we're sort of like, it's kind of interesting how the veil between order and chaos is so thin, like we could just jump from one to the other pretty quickly. So let's say, like what I was saying, your graffiti career is going well, but then all of a sudden your crew kicks you out. So you go from order to chaos real quick. Like if you really care about being in that crew and it means something to you, or, something like your spouse cheats on you, or, somebody passes away in your life, you lose your job, your business starts having problems. All of these kind of things can push you into chaos pretty quickly. And then there's other stuff to think about, like, environmental type stuff, like a natural disaster can put our whole community or state or city into chaos. A car accident can put you into chaos. Health issues, fucking riots, like civil unrest, all this kind of shit. So there's all the kinds of different things that can cause chaos. Like right from you everything's in order, everything's going really well, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's just chaos. Everything seems to be kind of crumbling around you. It's sort of interesting too when you think about it. Like you could go from complete order, everything's going really well, and then one thing can put you into chaos, and like you sort of focus on that one thing. It's like how negativity tends to overpower positivity a lot of times. So you can be having a really great day, and then all of a sudden one small thing happens, and then you start reacting to it, and then you end up playing it over and over again in your mind, and you sort of force yourself to stay in that chaos state. I think we've all had this happen where maybe you have an interaction with somebody that's not it's not a good interaction. Maybe it's an argument or some kind of something, I don't know, whatever, use your imagination. And then we've all probably had this happen. I know I do it. You'll just find yourself sort of reliving that for the rest of the day, or even longer sometimes. Like you'll relive this argument that you had, or you'll play it out in your mind over and over again. So you're just sort of keeping yourself in chaos, which is kind of weird. It's very counterproductive. So, the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I thought it was something, it's another thing that sort of, it kind of pushed me to focus on personal development a little bit more when I started thinking about it the way that he was describing it. Because we all deal with this, but maybe for most of us, at least I didn't really identify it as being order and chaos and being like these two completely different states that you sort of jump in between. And I find myself jumping in between order and chaos like all day. Like I'll have order, and then all of a sudden I'll be in chaos, and then I'll get a handle on it, and then I'll go back to order. I don't know if that's how it is for everybody, but that's definitely how it is for me. And so, a couple things that I've noticed happening to me is the more I allow this chaos to sort of keep playing over and over in my mind, the sort of deeper into it I get. So I was talking to my girlfriend the other day, and she could tell I was kind of, something was off about me. I was just really stressed out just in general. And she asked me what I was stressing about, and I couldn't even give her an answer. I was like, I don't even know. I'm just like I just have this overall feeling of stress. And it's like, I couldn't really even pinpoint what it was that I was stressed about. 'Cause I mean, everything's going pretty well right now. So there wasn't a whole lot for me to stress about, but I think I'm kind of playing things over in my mind and just sort of keeping myself in that chaotic state. And so that's kind of the idea. But I wanted to give some examples of what we can do about this and kind of why I'm even talking about this at all. For me, it was another sort of thing that that made me realize how important stuff like mental toughness is. Like, consistently challenging yourself to doing hard things. I mean, there's big ones and small ones. I mean, there's like these crazy retreats where they put you out and beat the shit, not literally, but like, beat the shit out of you for like 3 days or however long, these crazy mental toughness challenges. Like, those are big things, but there's little things you can do every day, like all the time, that sort of helps not chip away, but just sort of helps build it up. I mean, you can take these little small steps. I mean, literally carrying something heavy for longer than you would normally carry it. Like, get in the habit of doing something like that. Like, we've all done this where you're carrying something maybe from your car to the house and it's really heavy and you want to take a break. Maybe just force yourself to carry it a little further. It seems kind of weird and kind of maybe a little silly, but like, if you think about, if you do those little things all the time, you're going to build up more and more resilience. And there's big things. I mean, I feel like I'm talking about 75 hard too much, so I'm not going to talk about it, but that's another example. Look it up. That's kind of a big thing that will really help you develop this thing. But there's also like I was saying, there's small things. You could take a 5-minute cold shower. That's, for most of us, that's really hard to do. It's challenging to keep yourself under that cold water for a whole 5 minutes. The way I do it, I just set a timer on my phone and I put the water all the way to cold, and I literally just jump in face first as soon as I set the timer, like cold water right on my face. And then I just take a shower in completely cold water, and you'd be surprised how fast you can get all your shower stuff done when you're freezing your ass off. So it's plenty of time to do the whole shower. I mean, a lot of people kind of might laugh at this, maybe especially people that have actually been through like really serious shit and be like, it's not going to fucking give you mental toughness. But I'm talking about like little things that you do all the time. If you challenge yourself every day, you're going to build up some of it. I think there is something to be said about doing big things. Find opportunities to do things the hard way. I mean, that's another small thing. But sorry, I kind of jumped ahead. I'm reading my bullet points here, but try to get back to where I was. I believe in doing big things as well. So that's why I do the Live Hard program, because it is a very hard thing, and you have to do those hard things every single day. So I would totally recommend that. But there's all kinds of other things. Just look up mental toughness on the internet, and you'll probably find all kinds of different ways you can do it. But I'm also talking about just building it up little by little and doing these things daily. Find opportunities to do things the hard way. Are you the kind of person that tries to find the parking spot that's right up front because you don't want to carry the groceries far or whatever that is? Park all the way in the back. Just make it a habit of not doing that anymore. Just park far away. It's a little thing. It's exercise outside when it's cold or it's raining, when you would normally either skip it or you would do something else. Just force yourself to do that. I think little things like that can definitely help build up mental toughness in addition to the big things. Because even the big things, you'll do them, but you still have to maintain it. So you're still going to have to do stuff that's going to help build that up. So another thing that I feel is equally important is to work on developing some kind of control over your mind. And I don't think you're ever going to be able to have full control where you can just focus like a monk or something like that. But if you do like mindful meditation, which is like breath work, and visualization, I think is considered something along those lines, because you're always trying to bring your thoughts back to something specific. So like with breath work, the whole point is to try to clear your mind and only focus on your breathing. So whenever you think about, your mind starts to drift off into something else, then you bring it back to the breathing. So you'll just, whatever it is that's easiest for you to bring your attention to. So it could be the feeling of the breath coming in and out of your nose, or whatever that is, it's bringing it back to that, or, your lungs expanding. You can use this practice to try to help develop some control over your mind. And it's also, you're also developing control of refocusing. So let's say you're in a position where you're having thoughts that you don't want to have. Developing this skill can help you turn those thoughts off, at least temporarily. So I find breath work is very, very, very helpful. Visualization, I do that every day. So I try to visualize what I want in the future. So I have a specific thing that I visualize I think I've talked about it, so I won't get into too much detail, but it's basically what my company's facility is going to look like. And my thinking is if we have that facility, then a lot of other things are kind of going the way that they're supposed to be going. So, what I end up doing every day is I'll go and I'll walk through that facility. So I'll pull up, I'll go and, put my bag down in my office and I'll go walk around, I'll meet people. And doing that kind of thing every day, it's also creating more control over your mind because you're focusing on something that you've never actually seen before. I mean, I guess you could also do it for something you've seen. There's people that visualize things like material things like cars and shit, and they'll go to the dealership and drive the car that they dream of, and then they can just sort of visualize that. But it's the same shit. You're building up a skill of bringing your mind back to a certain thing. So when you're doing breath work or visualization, your thoughts are going to wander. And so you'll get better. If you do this every day, if you do some form of this kind of thing every day, you'll get better at sort of shutting off those extra thoughts that kind of creep in and bringing it back to what you really want to be thinking about. So another form of, I believe it's a form of mindful meditation where you can do it anytime, whatever you're doing, you can kind of use this practice. So one example, I think I heard somebody talk about this is, if you're washing dishes, a lot of times you don't really think about washing the dishes. You don't really have to. You don't have to focus on that. It's a pretty simple task. So maybe you're listening to music or you have a TV playing in the background, or maybe even have something on YouTube on your phone or whatever that is kind of distracting you from that simple task. But another form of mindfulness that you can practice is to not do any of that stuff and actually focus on what you're doing. And so what you could do is pay attention to all the sounds, like really listen to what everything sounds like, the water and the sponge and all this kind of shit. You could really focus on the temperature of the water, the textures that you're feeling, all these kind of things, and just really focus your attention on that task. And while it seems like, why would you want to do that? You're getting reps in building up a skill that's very valuable. So if you apply that to all kinds of different things, so like sometimes when I'm working out, most of the time I like to listen to something. I usually listen to like a podcast or something when I'm working out. But every now and then, if I really want to practice this, instead of playing anything in my headphones, I won't play anything at all. And there's a couple different things that I've done for working out specifically. One, I find it's more difficult, and what I don't like about this is it makes the workouts feel way longer. So I usually work out for 45 minutes. And if I do this, what I'm about to talk about, it feels like the workout's like an hour and a half long. It's pretty crazy. So it's similar to what I was talking about with washing dishes. So when you're working out, instead of listening to music or a podcast or whatever, watching the TV in the gym or whatever you do, if you just really focus on everything that you're feeling, say you're jogging, like feel the impact of your steps or the way your body's feeling, the way your heart rate's feeling. If you're using weights or doing something like that, just really feel the weight, like just notice all that shit. Notice how your hands feel around the bar, whatever, just really focus your attention on what you're doing. It's also, I think, is a better way to work out because you can actually focus your attention on the muscles that you're working, which I believe, I don't really know a whole lot about it, but I believe there's a lot of benefits to that because you're really paying attention. You're probably less likely to injure yourself. And then there's also something about your mind is so powerful, like it controls your whole body. So if you're focusing on the muscles that you're working, there has to be some benefit to that if you think about it. I mean, like if you open and close your hand, you're not thinking, I'm going to open and close my hand. Your brain is just fucking sending signals to that. And, so who knows what else you can do if you really focus your attention on what you're doing. So that's another example. Another one, I don't know if it really falls into this, but and this is also an important social skill that I think a lot of us lack. When you're talking to somebody, really listen to them. And that sounds obvious, but just test yourself the next time you talk to somebody and see, are you listening to what the person's saying, or are you trying to figure out what you're going to say at the next pause? I think most of us probably don't fully listen. We try to create a response to keep the conversation going, which I think is pretty normal. But at the same time, I think you're probably missing out on a lot of information because you're more trying to figure out what you're going to say rather than really listening to what the other person is saying. So those are some ideas. There's tons of other shit that you could probably do that would help develop, this control over your mind. Another thing that I wanted to bring up that I've been doing, and the reason that I can do this is because I've been practicing meditation for quite a while. I think, I don't know, maybe 10 years or more. I'm not sure. But, like when I was talking about earlier, how I was really stressed out. I still kind of am. I'm trying to get a handle on it. But what was happening is I was able to fall asleep when I would go to bed, but then I would wake up usually around 3:00 in the morning, which is kind of strange. Like it was pretty consistent. And so I would wake up and my mind would just start working on shit like immediately as soon as I woke up. And so it ended up being really hard to fall back asleep. And what ends up happening is if I'm up for an hour and a half or whatever, maybe even sometimes longer, and then I do manage to fall back asleep, my whole schedule is kind of fucked up because I'll probably end up waking up a little bit later. I'll be more groggy throughout the day. So I've been really trying to get a handle on this. And I made a rule for myself that seems to be starting to work. Like it was hard to do at first. So the rule that I made was I'm not allowed to think when I'm in bed to sleep. So if I'm in my bed and I'm there to sleep, I'm not allowed to think about anything at all. So I use the breath work pretty much exclusively to not think about stuff. So now it's starting to click and starting to catch on. So when I do wake up in the middle of the night, my brain will start getting ramped up and thinking about shit. And I'll just remind myself, I'm not allowed to think. All I'm here to do is sleep. No thinking allowed. So I'll focus back on the breath, and then I end up falling back asleep much faster. I still have the problem where I'm waking up, throughout the night, and maybe I need to drink less coffee or something. I don't know. It could be a number of things, but I believe it's mainly stress that's causing this. But it is starting to work, that whole concept of I'm not allowed to think. So that's one reason why this mindfulness and meditation and all this kind of thing I feel is important to kind of keep you from being overrun by this chaos. So another thing that I wanted to just bring up, and I've talked about it a whole bunch, studying Stoicism is also something that's really great for this kind of thing. A lot of personal development stuff that you see definitely has some kind of roots in Stoicism. It seems like Stoicism in a lot of ways is kind of preparing you to deal with chaos, because if you think about it, most of the time when chaos happens, it's things that are out of your control. I mean, nothing that I said when I was listing all of those examples are things that you can fully control. I mean, there's some things that you can control your actions, and hopefully that influences the outcome, but you can't control the outcome. So Stoicism kind of helps teach you that things that are outside of your control are things that you shouldn't be, too stressed out about. I don't know. I'm probably not putting that in the best way, but it's just talking about not freaking out over things that you can't control. There's nothing you can do about it. If there's if someone passes away in your family, there was nothing you can do. I mean, obviously you're going to mourn and do all of these things. That's all totally normal. But, there's a certain limit to it. But check it out. Stoicism is I've talked about it a whole bunch. It's really helped me quite a bit. So another thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately is I have to wonder if, the idea is not about avoiding chaos. Obviously, you don't want to put yourself in dangerous situations if it's not necessary. But at the same time, like, at least my perception, and I know a lot of people are seeing this too, because you see people talking about it, but like, it seems like we're getting less and less equipped or skilled at dealing with this kind of shit. The more comfortable that life gets, the softer we're getting. You see all these kind of things like just the phrases that go around. You hear them all the time, like victim culture, safe spaces, fucking participation trophies, and all this kind of stuff. It all feels like an effort to shield us from chaos, whereas I'm sure that a lot of that, most of it probably has some kind of value and there's a reason for it to be there. But at the same time, I'm kind of wondering if if we're taking things too far in a lot of ways, and we're kind of creating, a society that's not as equipped to deal with chaos as maybe they used to be. I mean, obviously, our lives are way easier in certain aspects than, say, 100 years ago or 200 years ago, where it was a much harder existence. And you go even further back, it's probably even harder when you're out there in nature and you got to worry about people eating, or not people, but well, maybe, I don't know, but animals and shit eating you. You're in the food chain. So as life gets easier, we get less and less equipped to deal with chaos, But then I'm also thinking life is easier in some ways, but then it's getting harder. The more information that we have, the more all of these kind of things, like all of this shit, I don't think we're prepared for all of the shit that we're able to have, like social media and the internet. And, I don't think we're supposed to hear all of these voices. You know what I mean? So like you have all of these people that are, more phrases like trigger warning and all this kind of shit. Like people are so easily offended. And I think we're just getting too soft. I think we're getting to the point where we're not as capable of dealing with chaos as we should be. So hopefully some of these things might be helpful. I'm finding them helpful, and I'm finding they're helping me deal with chaos a little better. So I would assume that they would help some other people. Yeah, I think that's all I got. I wrote some bullet points and then I threw in some extra shit. But so in conclusion, like I said, it's not really about having no chaos. You got to be prepared to deal with these things, because there's no avoiding it altogether. I guess a good example of becoming better at dealing with something. I mean, if you think about like when someone passes away, or, I think about when my dog passed away, I think 2 years ago or something like that. At the beginning, it was total chaos. Like it was all I could think about, not to get too sad about it, but he had cancer, and it was, he was ready to go. Like I'm not going to explain why, but, so I had to have him, put to sleep. And I didn't want to have him be in some room with a bunch of strangers. So they did it. He was on my lap. And it was the worst thing that I've ever experienced in my life. Like, and I'm going to have to deal with that a bunch more times, like for the rest of my life. I'm always going to have dogs. And this is just something I'm going to have to deal with. So that put me into complete chaos. My mind, I could barely focus on anything else. As you kind of go on, and anybody that's lost anybody kind of understands this, like, it's not like you don't miss that person or that friend or animal or whatever. You just get better equipped at dealing with it. So like whenever I think about him, I still get sad, but I'm way better at dealing with it now because I've got the reps in, he's been on my mind the whole time, but I don't just fall apart when I think about it now. So, I mean, it's like, there was one thing I was thinking about just earlier today was when it first happened, when I would feed my dogs at the end of their meal, I would chop up an apple into pieces and give them all a chunk of an apple. And so I don't know how many meals it was, but I kept forgetting, I was cutting one more chunk than what I needed because he wasn't there anymore. So that would just push me right back into chaos when I would look down at the apples and I'm like, oh man, I cut one too many apple chunk again. Like, fuck, dude. And then I'd start thinking about it, So the point of that is just kind of an example of like, there was no choice but to deal with it because it was happening, right? So if you think about that, and like all the other things that I said about trying to build up that resilience and doing all that kind of stuff, I think it's a perfect example, because now I can think about him. I can look at pictures of him. I can do all these kind of things. It still makes me sad, but it doesn't push me into chaos anymore because I've gotten more equipped at dealing with that specific thing. And hopefully, I know it's going to suck every single time I have to deal with that, but I don't know if it's going to get any easier, but over time you just get, I don't know. I think I'm kind of rambling, but I don't want to say you get used to them not being there, but I think you just get better at dealing with it. So the other thing, and I think I'll just wrap it up real quick here. You also have to think about it in terms of something very simple. If you're not very good at push-ups, if you do a bunch of push-ups every day. I don't know if you're supposed to do them every day. I do push-ups most days, but I've gotten way better at doing push-ups. So like one example that I was thinking of is there's this one push-up that's like, it's more advanced. I think it's called a diamond push-up. You put your hands together in front of you and you connect your index finger and your thumb, and it makes like a diamond shape. And then you do a push-up with your hands like that, and your chest is supposed to touch your hands. When I first tried to do that, I could not do one single rep. Like I couldn't go all the way down and push myself back up because it was this whole new thing. Didn't have the strength. I didn't have, it works different muscle groups and shit, but I just couldn't do it. So I was just doing like half reps, you know? But now I've done a lot of those things. I can knock out a bunch of those. I can do at least 10, 12 reps, multiple sets of them. So it's the same shit. You can apply that same kind of thinking to any aspect of all of the shit I was just talking about. The mindfulness, the building up mental toughness. It's all about getting the reps and doing it consistently. Like when I did my first diamond push-ups, it didn't get easier for quite a long time. Like I didn't even notice a difference for a while, but then it builds up, and then eventually I was knocking them out, and it was just like, I don't even remember where it was in between. Like where was it where I could just do one? You know, you just got to get those reps in. So I think that's pretty much as much as I can think of to talk about. But hopefully that helps. I've talked about it before. We're building a community. I put a link on our website, so you can contact me at Bus166 on Instagram. But if you want to just go right to the process, we have a little bit of a vetting process so that we get like-minded people in there. Go to graffitimachine.com. There's a link. Join our community on there, and there's some information about that. So check it out if this is the kind of stuff you're into. We got a group of cool people that we're building, and we're doing different different like personal development stuff, and we're talking about graph and doing all kinds of cool shit there. So appreciate you listening, and I'll talk to you soon. All right.
Appreciate each and every one of you guys who are supporting the cause and continue to spread the love. And stay up.